We inaugurate the Community Social Ophthalmology Session 3, the semi-finals, and wish you all the best. So I presume all the presenters are here. So the first paper is paper 21, Teleophthalmology, an answer for effective screening in diabetic retinopathy in rural India. Dr. M. Azhar Mohammed. Dr. Azhar Mohammed, please. So one of the things that we've been told to mark very strictly is the timing. So when you start and when you finish, each paper is of 8 minutes duration, right?
8 minutes.
So
6 minutes.
if there are any questions, if there are time, we'll take. Otherwise, we'll take them at the end of the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. My topic of paper presentation is teleophthalmology, an answer for effective screening of diabetic retinopathy in rural India. The study was carried in association with the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust UK, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, Indian Institute of Public Health, Hyderabad, Government of Maharashtra, NPCB and VI, Department of Ophthalmology, Kasturba Hospital, MGIMS Sevagram. Teleophthalmology is the integration of electronic information and medical technology through telecommunications and digital medical equipments. It provides access to the specialized expert healthcare to the underserved area and the people living in the remote region. India ranks third in world in number of internet users, and the teledensity in India has increased about 600% in last 5 years. This makes screening of DR using imaging and teleophthalmology an exciting prospect that can revolutionize the healthcare system. According to Wilson and Jugner's all 10 criteria for screening, diabetic retinopathy is a perfect situation of a chronic disease to be screened. And according to American Telehealth Association's 4 screening categories. Studies conducted in India with non-mediatic digital imaging as a screening tool for detection of diabetic retinopathy show high sensitivity and specificity. Now, in this present study, we trained 18 ophthalmic officers from government health setup for data collection with the help of cloud-based online diabetic retinopathy Android application software, and in taking fundus images with a non-mediatic fundus camera at the non-communicable disease clinic of the government facility, which included SDH, RH, CSCs and PHCs. Screening was carried out over a period of 2 years. A retinal photograph of each eye were taken with porous 3-netra non-mediated digital fundus camera, who were registered in the NCD clinic of government health facility. All these fundus photos were uploaded online on diabetic retinopathy screening Android software and transferred to ophthalmic surgeon for the diagnosis. All these fundus photographs were graded according to ETDRS classification, and reporting was done mostly in real time. As you can see, data entry was done in pre-designed clinical performance and online digital softwares, which were then uploaded on cloud-based data entry software. Visual acuity testing of non-diabetic patient was done with the help of ETDRS at government health facility. The fundus photography was done by the trained ophthalmic officer at the government health facility like community health center, primary health center, and even in sub-centers. Cloud computing of all this data was done. Patient clinical data and fundus photograph were uploaded and stored on a PorusCare online cloud-based software. Mostly real-time data was analyzed by the ophthalmic surgeon who was there in the base hospital, and the reports were sent to the government health facility online, and the patient which are having diabetic retinopathy changes were referred to the base hospital for further management. These are some of the photographs which were taken by the trained ophthalmic officers at the PHCs and uploaded online. These are images of normal fundus images. These are the images which were showing diabetic retinopathy changes. Now, in this study, over a period of 2 years, they screened approximately 5,004 non-diabetic patients by non-mediatic fundus camera in the rural area over a period of 2 years. Images were uploaded via pre-designed DR screening Android software developed for the study, and mostly real-time online reporting was done with the help of teleophthalmology. In this study, of the 5,004 patients, 9,988 fundus photographs were taken, and out of which 87.86, that is 8776 were gradable and 12.13 were non-gradable. Visual activity status in the patient 5004 approximately In this, 88.95 had near normal vision, that is 6.6 to 6.18, considering the best corrected visual acuity in the better eye, and 11.05 had visual impairment. In the total 5,004 patient, 375 patient had diabetic retinopathy changes, with the prevalence rate of 7.62%. In these, 287 patients were further investigated, and about 81 patients were treated with the laser, PRP, laser grid, macular grid, intravitreal injection, or both. Now, why? How this teleophthalmology in this particular study helped to be a very good answer for effective screening of diabetic retinopathy in rural part of the India. Basically, screening was done at the government health facility, as we were gone to the patient to screen them. Training of ophthalmic assistant, which is part of government setup, in taking fundus photograph using non-mydriatic fundus camera, using online software, Android application for data entry, cloud computing, processing, real-time reporting, proper referral system, and awareness. Teleophthalmology proved to be a cost-effective, accurate, and reliable methodology for screening DR in underserved, remotely populated rural people. In this, now in the further step, we have amalgamated artificial intelligence into the study. Now the next lot, we are using artificial intelligence, and in near future, we are going to inculcate the use of machine learning and deep learning for more precise, accurate screening of this patient. So in order to tackle the rising problem of avoidable blindness due to diabetic retinopathy in a developing country like India, such methodology of teleophthalmology can be streamlined on a large scale. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please stick to the time in future. So we'll move on to the next speaker.
There is one question. You tell trained ophthalmic officers. So were they the ophthalmologists or optometrists or the ophthalmic assistants?
They were, ma'am, optometrists. Their ophthalmic officers are job done by the optometrists who are serving at the government health facilities. They were trained by our institute over a period of 2 months.
Okay.
And they screened the patient at their setup.
And was the NCD facility was used for that?
This facility, this screening was done in the NCD rooms only, where all the non-diabetic patients were registered and who are taking the medication from government, anti-diabetic medications.
So the next speaker is community-centered ROP screening approach. Dr. Santosh Agarwal. एक है उन्होंने ले लिया ये आमिर से शेयर कर लीजिएगा
First and second.
At the outset, I thank AIOS for giving me this opportunity. So my topic is community-centered ROP screening approach, Arambha Tele ROP model. So aim of this study is to establish the team approach and tele ROP model for the successful community-centered mass screening of premature babies. As you know, retinopathy of prematurity is a disease affecting the retina of premature infants. Immature and incompletely vascular retina is the hallmark of the disease. Contemporary neonatology practices in the premature infants have increased the survival rate, which escalated the risk of developing ROP. It is the leading cause of preventable infant blindness in the world. What is the incidence and Indian scenario? 5 million babies born premature every year. The incidence of ROP is around 40 to 50%, greater in the rural and remote areas. Annual live births in India is around 26 million, and ROP screening is required around 5 million. It is huge, and very less ROP experts are available in India. And the referral rate is very low. 58% pediatricians refer, 8% pediatricians refer only sometimes, 34% pediatricians never refer, and non-availability of ROP expert among ophthalmologists. So there is apathy on the part of pediatricians, ophthalmologists, and there is dropout rate because of the lack of awareness in patients also. So screening by BIO, that is indirect ophthalmoscope, it is a traditional gold standard but difficult to perform because it is a tedious job. We can skip areas because 360 degree we have to evaluate. It is time consuming, tedious, and many people differ from doing all those things. So ROP expert has to visit the NICU, he has to give lot of time, he has to drop the diagram, there is need of depressor, it is a subjective, It can vary in different doctors or whoever is doing the ROP screening, and there is no proper documentation. So we are using wide field imaging for ROP screening in our study. That is the Forus Neo camera. I don't have any financial interest. It is a wide field portable infant's retinal camera, novel, very low cost, indigenously manufactured and developed in India in Bangalore by Trinetra. What are the advantages? It is easily accessible, or you can take to rural areas. Mass screening is possible, and the optometrist, if he is expert, within 3 minutes he can do one screening. And tele-ROP screening model can be adopted for this purpose. And it is an objective method, it is reproducible, and documentation is very much the advantage of this camera. And you can have second opinion, you can use it for medical purposes, you can use for counseling purposes. This is the indirect ophthalmoscopic method, traditional method. This is the camera, wide field camera. And what is our project? It is a partnership, joint venture by a private practitioner. It is a team approach. 2 vitreoretinal specialists and 1 pediatric ophthalmologist, we have come together in town, and we got inspired by Dr. Anand Vinekar and Dr. Sucheta Kulkarni from HV Desai. We got refined and skilled in various workshops and conferences. We have updated our knowledge. We met different neonatologists, we visited NICUs, we told about our projects, and we also trained our optometrists for taking the images at Narayan Netralaya or and HV Desai. And good communication, coordination was maintained among neonatologists, ophthalmologists, ROP expert and optometrists and patients also. In one day we adopted one route, and treatment was done at tertiary center, our own center or in NICU. For counseling purpose, we have used posters, handbills, and also images which we have taken by this camera. And we have made the neonatologist also aware of this fact, that is a very grievous disease. This is the poster, or this is a brochure. This is we 3 ophthalmologists, we have come together. This is the report card we maintain. This is the leaflet we use for patients. So this is the poster we just paste on in the clinic. And this is the compact camera we can take anywhere in the rickshaw or your private vehicle or any. So it's very useful and accessible to any area, especially rural areas. Tele-ROP you can do. I am reporting this by seeing the images, and not only ROP but also intersegment images you can take, and you can rule out the congenital anomalies, coloboma, retinoblastoma, albinotic. And now these are the few images taken by this camera, very beautiful images in an expert hand. You need some time to adopt all those things before treatment and after treatment. I won't go in detail, just few images I want to show you. Very beautiful images. And place of screening, wherever the babies are collected, and results from January 2018 to September 2021, around 5,559 babies got screened. 3.5% ROP treatment was given in 3.52%. The total treatment was 194. Intravit injection and laser were given, and they were saved from going to blind. We were covering 8 districts, government as well as private. So these are the results, different results. Birth weight chart is there, gestational and staging chart. In stage 1 to APROP, we found different stages. And this program is already running in Narayan Netralaya and HV Desai also, but we are in private. So very few people are adopting this type of strategy. We all 3 have come together and we are doing good work. So we are the unique in running this project as a joint venture in private, covering 8 districts and expanding as well. The problems with this project is that we need skill assistant. We have to train that assistant. He should be very interested. He has to travel a lot. Image quality should be proper. Sometimes there is apathy on the part of pediatrician. Some patients, they want doctor should come. So we have to tell them that this method is different. Some patient refrain from repeated follow-up. That is also a problem. What is the limitation?
So
Sometimes you find
Time.
okay. to conclude, Arambha ROP screening project is a unique model that can be adopted in India, especially private sector, to curb the incidence of ROP and huge burden of childhood blindness. It is a low-cost indigenous camera. Tele-ROP screening is possible, and documentation is very well maintained, and it is very helpful in medico-legal cases. And it is the ideal model to be adopted by many others across India. Thank you very much for your patient listening.
Yeah, Dr. Santosh, we appreciate your work because this work, if you are institute based, the things becomes more easy. You get more manpower, you have time, and you can do it. But in private practice, you are doing it, so it is a commendable work.
Thank you so much, sir.
The other problem is this is a problem of the malnourished children in the rural areas, and they do not have the funds for treatment to continue with it. That is another limiting factor. So the next speaker now is going to be family screening and genetic counseling and inherited retinal dystrophies, Dr. Sharina Thomas.
Treatment is available at free of cost in government sector.
Not very freely.
No, in all RIU.
It is
It's available at free of cost in all RIU. Vision Institute.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my presentation is on family screening and genetic counseling in inherited retinal disorders. So, So starting with what is genetic screening. So genetic screening is a systematic approach to screen high-risk individuals and provide them with early preventive treatment and reproductive options. Since genetic diseases are heritable, family screening and consanguinity plays an important role in prevention of such diseases. So what is consanguinity? It's a union between individuals who have at least one common ancestor, and it's a deeply rooted social trend in 1/5 of the world population. In the world population, if you see, it's more common in the sub-Saharan area, in the Middle East, and in the West and Central Asia. In India, in a study done by Krishnamurthy et al., they found it more prevalent in South India, which is most commonly seen in Tamil Nadu, followed by Andhra Pradesh and then Karnataka. In autosomal recessive disorders, there's increased occurrence of a carrier state, and prolonged parental inbreeding has led to an increase in background homozygosity of about 5%. So the aim of our study was to study the impact of consanguinity and family screening on various types of retinal dystrophies. It was a retrospective observational study with a sample size of 2,885 patients. And among the dystrophies, the most common was retinitis pigmentosa, followed by cone rod dystrophy, Stargardt's, and other diseases. All these dystrophies found less than 1.25%. The mean age of our study subject was 31.59 years, and there was a male preponderance. There was 50.33% of consanguinity seen in our study, of which 92% was second-degree consanguinity, that is, uncle, niece, or aunt, nephew marriages, followed by third-degree consanguinity. We studied the number of generations with consanguineous marriages in our study, and we found that in 81%, one generation was affected. In 17%, 2 generations in a family had history of consanguineous marriage, and in 2%, it was 3 generations. And when we counted the number of consanguineous marriages in families, in 75%, in one family, there were only 1 consanguineous marriage. In 20%, there were 2 consanguineous marriages. In 4%, there were 3. And in about 1% where there were more than 3 consanguineous marriages in a family. We also went ahead and studied the affected individuals in a family who again went and married consanguineously. Like as you can see in this pedigree chart, the female is an affected female, and she went on and married her maternal uncle, which is a second-degree consanguinity. So what we found was that in 10.2%, one affected member went ahead and married consanguineously. In 1.3%, 2 affected members did that, and in 0.3%, 3 affected members went ahead and married consanguineously again. We did, in our study, about 60% underwent genetic counseling, of which only 4.7% underwent genetic testing. We had 102 families with any degree of consanguinity, and 46% of which were found to be affected with the disease. So to coming to the discussion, in consanguineous marriages, there's a 25 to 100% predictability of the progeny to get affected. In our study, only 7% underwent genetic testing, and 11.8% of the affected individuals eventually engaged in a consanguineous marriage. So all this highlights the lack of motivation and awareness among people about family screening, consanguinity, and genetic tests. So I just wanted to to emphasize on the importance of genetic tests, highlight one case which came to us of a 29-year-old female with history of decreased vision, photophobia, and nystagmus since childhood. She had similar history in her sister. She was married out of non-consanguineous marriage, and she was 14 weeks pregnant when she presented to us. On examination, her best corrected visual acuity was 6/16 both eyes, and she was not able to identify any plates on the color vision chart. When you see the fundus photo, you can see atrophic changes in both macula, and the retina OCT shows foveal thinning with the outer retinal atrophic changes. We went ahead and did a full field ERG which showed absent cone specific responses. So a diagnosis of achromatopsia was made. The patient underwent genetic counseling and eventually genetic testing, and we found a compound heterozygous mutation for CNGA3 gene in the patient, and coincidentally in her unrelated asymptomatic husband, we found a heterozygous mutation in one of the exons of the CNGA3 gene. So the patient again underwent post-test counseling, and she wanted to go ahead with the prenatal diagnostic test. She underwent amniocentesis at 16 weeks, and the fetus was also found to have a homozygous mutation in the same gene. On medical grounds, she decided on MTP. 1 year later, she conceived again and again underwent through prenatal testing, but this time it did not show any mutations, and she continued with the pregnancy. So this case example shows how important is genetic testing to at least provide patients with reproductive options. So to conclude, what we knew was the negative impact of consanguineous marriages in terms of increased genetic risk. What our study added was South Indian data on impact of consanguinity and importance of family screening in retinal dystrophies. The future directions would be to improve awareness about consanguinity, genetic counseling and prenatal testing, consanguinity-based next generation sequencing to dissect the genetic cause of inherited disorders in families. Thank you.
So for our experience is concerned, we have worked on oculocutaneous albinism in Bankura, and we found out two groups in oculocutaneous albinism in Bankura area, Tili and Tambuli group. But none of them are at all interested, or they do not like to give permission to undergo genetic counseling en masse. Only those oculocutaneous albinos who got married amongst, those like to have the testing only to know whether the offspring will be oculocutaneous albino or not. That's why it's very difficult, and I am really surprised to see that these amniocentesis and others, they have allowed.
It's a one-off case that
Yeah,
we have.
that that's a nice work, and we are looking forward that in future we will get such beautiful people who will allow this genetic counseling, because from government side, suppose from Calcutta, the Indian Institute of Chemical Biology, they are always ready to do genetic counseling of any community at large, but people are not at all interested or not permitted to undergo genetic counseling because of social restrictions.
Our next paper is on Atmanirbhar. This is by Ms. Bhavna Sulagod. Sorry. So you are presenting on her behalf?
Yes. No, sir. I'm the presenting officer.
What is the presenting on?
Your name?
Dr. Kaushik Murmi.
Why is his name not there?
So good afternoon. I'm here to present our innovation that looks at making the visually impaired Atmanirbhar. We talk of an Atmanirbhar India. So this is a system where we've used AI and ML to detect optical currency. We spoke about the importance of preventing blindness, but I think as ophthalmologists, we are also responsible for this category. So this is a typical patient who came to our rehab department, went to our cafeteria and was handed over 2 notes. Now look at your own wallets. You have a variety of currency notes. Currency is very critical for us. Most of us took a taxi or an auto coming in. We've handled currency. Now we don't know, one, whether it is authentic. 2, we don't know whether it is legal, because if it is overwritten, scratched or tone, then it doesn't follow or it cannot be used legally. Most currency notes come with a whole variety of features that are supposed to help you identify whether it is authentic or not. And there are existing currency recognition systems in the country, but most of them have been done before 2017, which is prior to the era of demonetization, so they don't work on the current currency notes that we have. RBI released an app called the Money app. This again identifies the denomination but does not look at whether it is genuine or counterfeit. A number of our patients came up to us saying, you want us to rehabilitate, but how do we even know whether the currency is authentic? So the trigger for our study was saying that can we help identify nominal value, authenticity, and whether the currency is legal, as the currency note could be dirty, torn, or distorted among our patients. So we worked using some of our principles. So we looked at the existing UV-based currency identification system that is there in most of our hospitals. We worked on the height of the machine, looked at the focal length, and determined what camera we could use. We understood that there's a principle called iridescence, where if you look at a device in two different angles, the color becomes different. So we then captured images. We used about 9,000 training and about 4,500 testing images to classify the note, validate the watermark, and look at UV features. We took multiple images. We took the front and back fluorescent light images. We took a UV light images, and we took the same image in two different angles. We built a hardware solution on Raspberry Pi, which had two web cameras and a speaker that could give an audio output. And like I'm shown, this is the basic schematic of the device, and our biomedical team kind of working on that and doing some kind of a jugaad. So this video shows a slowed down version of how the actual authentication works. So we used about 430 currency notes that we tested through 4 different cycles. We then also printed some notes to simulate currency to see whether it works. So in a step-by-step measure, it identifies the denomination, then it looks at the watermark, it takes multiple images.
Extended check in progress. Watermark test passed. Extended check in progress. UV test passed. Authentic note.
So we looked at 8 different features. We also looked at seeing that whether they were soiled or whether they were written, so that we took notes that were in our finance accounts department from day-to-day transactions. And we looked at how the model worked. So character recognition was not so great. So we dropped it and looked at pattern image recognition later. The UV validation and the watermark model were binary. So they were a yes, no. So that worked very well for us, and we were able to quickly look. Among the 8 characteristics, we narrowed down on 5 that were consistently repeatable. We looked at denomination and watermark. We looked at the magnetic strip. We looked at the OVI, which is the optical variable ink, where if you move the note in different directions, you get 2 different colors. And we looked at the random fluorescent marks that are there on the notes. The other 3 properties we thought were not very consistent. We were about 99% precise in identifying denomination, 96% in the OVI, and the average testing time took about 4 seconds. So it's almost instant in a real world kind of an application that a person with visual impairment can identify a note in terms of denomination 99% of the time, which was about 95% repeatable. The SERS leveraged our knowledge in optometry and ophthalmology in iterative development of the device. We use image recognition, dual angle camera position, and UV ray projection system. We've not found a similar device anywhere in literature. The UV validation and watermark in just 2 classes were present absent, so the loss was very fast, the learning was very fast. The new 10 rupee notes we found were a little bit of a struggle, so that is a problem that we continue to work on. Most other studies, like I already mentioned, have not worked on the new currency notes, so we don't know whether they can work. End of the day, as ophthalmologists, just as we are responsible for all other conditions, I think we are also responsible to make sure that the visually impaired are able to function independently. Simply put a note into a device like this that needs to be worked on, and in just about 4 to 5 seconds when they trigger it, so it just tells them that the note is 10 rupee and it is legal and tender. So this allows them to be independent as much as their sighted counterparts. Thank you.
Practically now day-to-day life with the visually handicapped. who are going on or traveling?
So the new notes are a little difficult to identify, sir. So there are certain notches and certain elevated patches that are made on the note, but they're not very consistent. So if you give a visually impaired person the old 10 rupee and the new 10 rupee, they are more easily able to identify the old 10 rupee notes. And with multiple notes, all of them almost the same size, it is becoming a big challenge for them. So they're dependent on their family and friends to actually tell them what it is.
Is there any such marking on the lottery ticket?
We are not aware, sir. So we were looking at the currency notes. Lottery is not legal in Karnataka, so we didn't break our head about
Actually,
it.
I am telling this fact. I have seen in my life about 35 years back when I was working in Bankura on our train, one an ophthalmic patient, an aged patient, he used to sell lottery ticket. He has got no eyes. If somebody like to give him 1 rupee or 10 rupee, he doesn't like to take. No begging. Please buy one lottery ticket. And we were very much surprised to see how he can identify the lottery ticket. So I just like to know whether the lottery tickets has got some sort of this note type, any marking or anything like that.
I have no idea, sir. Probably if you can identify a winning lottery ticket, that would be even better.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next presentation now, which is AI-based deep learning algorithm as a recent tool for glaucoma diagnosis and progression, a revolution. Dr. Aditya Anand.
Good afternoon, everyone, and respected judges. The topic of my presentation is artificial intelligence-based deep learning algorithm as a recent tool for glaucoma diagnosis and progression. I have no financial disclosure. I have no financial interest in this presentation. Glaucoma, popularly known as sneak thief of sight, is the second leading cause of blindness. It is estimated that by the year of 2040, there will be 111.8 million cases of primary open-angle glaucoma worldwide. Thus, no doubt that glaucoma diagnostic techniques using artificial intelligence will become increasingly important as multimorbidity and patient demand rises. So what is the machine learning all about? So machine learning actually works with the traditional machine learning and representational learning, but in our study we are using deep learning algorithm. So deep learning algorithm have risen to the forefront of AI by providing nearly human level performance. And we use the deep learning term because there are multiple interconnected layers of neurons which perform their task through repetition and self-correction. So what happens is a lot of information is given as an input layer in the deep learning with the help of so many multiple hidden layers. Each layer is represented as a series of neurons, and it progressively extracts and gives the data as an output layer, and finally it makes a decision on it. So objective of our study is to analyze the fundus photographs, STOCT images and SAP reports of glaucoma suspects and their comparison with deep learning meta-analysis results from cloud data, and for effective screening of patients for glaucoma at community level and doubtful cases even in base hospital for early diagnosis of glaucoma. So ours is a hospital-based prospective analytical study. Study period duration is of 6 months. All patients are screened at our peripheral center for glaucoma. Comprehensive eye examination on the slit lamp and visual acuity through Slenderman chart has been done, followed by optic disc-centric fundus photograph acquisition through Remedio non-mydriatic fundus on phone handheld camera. So methodology we use as we have considered a vertical CD ratio 0.5 as a cutoff. Less than 0.5 is the non-referable glaucoma. More than 0.5 or rib abnormality is considered as a referable glaucoma. So irrespective of vertical CDR ratio, all patients have been measured IOP by handheld Perkins tonometer, and in IOP greater than 21 mmHg also we have referred. So all referable glaucoma patients are called at our main hospital, and SDOCT and SAP has been done. SDOCT, all patients have undergone SDOCT with the Cyrus SDOCT according to the optic disc cube scanning protocol, and all visual field examination reports were done by Humphrey Field Analyzer. All patients who completed fundus photography, SDOCT and SAP were advised for 2 monthly follow-up and analyzed for glaucoma progression. So we have included all the patients aged between 18 and 60 years, irrespective of their family history, past history, his patients on anti-glaucoma medications or history of any surgical interventions, and only Indian eyes are included in our study. Any kind of pathology which obscures the view of fundus we have excluded, such as lens opacities, vitreous opacities or corneal pathologies. And any kind of retinal pathology, secondary traumatic and traumatic glaucoma, thysical eyes and active inflammatory ocular disorders. These are the statistical tests used in my analysis. Results: total 1,868 individuals were included in our study. So 3,736 eyes were analyzed. So we have a mean age of 46 years, and with the female sex preponderance as there, and median IOPs range from 12 to 14 interquartile range. So out of this 1868 patients, 3,736 eyes were analyzed with improper analyzation of 552 eyes because it matches exclusion criteria. So we have actually included only 3,184 eyes with the proper analysis with vertical CDR ratio greater than 0.5. In those patients were called for the base hospital for STOCT and visual field analysis the main hospital, and out of these 782 patients, 1640 eyes were analyzed because the patient didn't turn up. So we have used area under receiver operating characteristic curve, sensitivity and specificity for our diagnostic accuracy. So coming out to the fundus photograph results, fundus photograph analysis by the deep learning algorithm, sensitivity came to be 87.7%, specificity 96.7%, and area under receiver operating characteristic curve is 0.96%. And as the vertical CD ratio increases, the glaucoma proportion rate also increases. Similarly, in SDOCT results, we got as 88% sensitivity, 94% specificity, and area under receiver operating characteristic curve is 0.98. As you can see with the data, more number of eyes are detected at the early stage of glaucoma with average RNFL thickness is 98 micron. SAP results accuracy is 85%, and it can mostly detect the early stage of glaucoma at visual field index, which we have included visual field index as a parameter here, and 92% is considered. And glaucoma progression analysis came to be 67% sensitivity and 75% specificity, and precision data came to be 81% with structure and function. Now that the result, these results are finally obtained are compared with the deep learning meta-analysis which is already in the cloud data. So we have taken the data through Prisma analysis in the meta-analysis model, and finally we compared our results with the results of meta-analysis. So these are the results of meta-analysis. So as you can see, the precision of 85% with structure and function are coming with the meta-analysis, and other parameters are also approximate equal to the peripheral screening which we have done. So the comparison of precision parameters with AI is 81%, without 69%, precision meta-analysis 85%. So our results are approximately equating to the meta-analysis. So limitations of our study is in uncooperative patients and need for quality training data and black box artificial intelligence and their detection of multiple diseases. So many limitations came in during our study. And so we finally conclude that the prospect of machine learning, the screening can help in the early diagnosis and glaucoma. Patient can be motivated and educated about glaucoma and its progression, importance of treatment can be explained to them. And we conclude that deep learning algorithm is a recent tool for glaucoma diagnosis, progression and management with its potential for low cost screening method at the community level. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Any glaucoma consultant here? So we'll go on to the next presentation then. The effect of twice a day usage of atropine. Now this is becoming very common and a lot of companies are driving this, so it's very important to have a pure scientific research in this.
Hi, good afternoon everybody. So we all now know that myopia, as Dr. Sethi said, that myopia is becoming increasingly common, and myopic progression is now being looked as a disease. This is the wrong presentation. This is the presentation which I did in the morning. This has been selected for semi-finals. But the presentation for this particular session was different. No, not this one. No, not this one. There's an... Yeah, 2:30.
The presentation, we can move on to the next one. You can speak after this.
Yeah, or if you want, I can present this one also. I will have to present this also.
You got two papers in this?
No. This is the. I got the call from scientific committee that you have the best paper in session 1. So this is the semi-finals. So you have to speak on that also at 3 o'clock. Oh, this is not.
No. This is not semi-finals.
It's written here semi-finals, no? Acha, after this.
So sir, I will find out the presentation.
So I think let's have the next speaker to
You
do
have
that.
your pen drive, you can put it
Yeah,
in.
I will.
So next is a 4-year longitudinal study of individuals to see reduction in blindness and vision impairment by Dr. Parikshat Gogat from Pune.
Parikshit Gogte.
Gogat.
Respected chairperson, sir, and learned audience. Timer. I am presenting a 4-year longitudinal study of 44,535 individuals to see the reduction in blindness and visual impairment done under the guidance of Dr. T.P. Das, sir. Our aim and objective was to examine an entire population in a low-income area in Pune, Maharashtra, to set up a vision center in that population and then re-examine this community again after 4 years. This was based on the L.V. Prasad Eye Institute's vision pyramid model, in which the vision centers form the base of the pyramid. This is as per the Alma Ata declaration that, we should have primary healthcare is very, very important. We know vision is needed for economic independence, for social interactions, for enjoying life. But then, when we do so far, all the things that was done for healthcare at the primary level was eye camps. In Vision Center, that is not the case. Here, we set up a Vision Center, but along with that, we did a house-to-house screening. So 4 trained community health workers measured vision of all these individuals in their homes. All individuals who had vision less than 618 were referred to the Vision Center, which was within 2 kilometers in the community, and at the VC, an optometrist further performed a comprehensive eye exam. If the vision didn't improve to 612, an ophthalmologist did the needful, and also they assigned a cause of blindness for all those whose vision didn't go beyond 660. It's not just that. People who did not visit a vision center, the optometrist actually went to their home, and in the home they took a handheld device, an autoref, a handheld slit lamp, a rebound tonometer, and they did a comprehensive eye examination in people's homes. And there, if they thought something more was needed, an ophthalmologist also visited people's home to do the fundoscopy and strabismus evaluation. So in all, even though about 45,000 people have been seen in the community, 8,211 actually came to the Vision Center. And here you can see for the OPD, the cataract surgery, specs prescribed, specs dispensed, there is a strong female preponderance. Women form 55 to 60% of the beneficiaries, because all the 4 healthcare workers and the ophthalmologist and the medical social worker were all ladies. This is the age and the gender distribution, one in 2015, the other in 2019. And in them, the difference is because some people had died, some had moved to another locality, or some were lost to follow-up. If you can see, in 2015, the prevalence of blindness for the better eye was 0.26%, which in 4 years fell to 0.16%. And the same for visual impairment, it reduced, and the impairment was more in women, almost 1.5 times more, was more in older individuals and in head of the family. It's not just with the better eye, we also looked at the worse eye, and with the worse eye, the blindness was 0.72% in 2015, fell to 0.44%, nearly halved in 2019. So women had more blindness, even though more women were served and it was an all-woman team, older people were more likely to be blind. So impact was there. Prevalence of blindness definitely reduced, but it didn't become zero. More women visited the Vision Center, and then this center was there for all times for people to see. Again, when we look at cause of blindness, the cause of blindness was cataract in 2015, and even though subsidized and later free cataract surgery was advised, it still remained the cause of blindness in 2019. So just doing good surgery, free surgery is not just the answer. More women accessed, the service was comprehensive, reliable, the service paid for itself, and most importantly, we gave a person-based individualized care to the community with health education and health promotion. All the other prevalence studies, the famous ICMR study, the WHO survey, APEDS, all of them are looking at stratified sampling. This is our first study in which we have seen the entire universe or the entire community and of all age groups, and we have come to a conclusion that it is 0.26% is the prevalence of blindness, which was less than what was started out at the Alma Ata declaration. But then of course the vision centers, setting it up, doing it is slightly costly, the growth is slow and steady, and the limitation is we did not measure inter-observer agreement. The illumination may have varied in people's homes, verandas and streets, but the distance was ensured with a string and a tape. Finally, healthy eyes lead to a better vision, lead to a happier life. And primary care vision centers are linked to secondary centers, linked to tertiary centers, not just one way, but way back also, because we need that backward integration later for low vision and rehabilitation. And in this way, we can give a comprehensive eye care to the community. And this was done by cross-subsidizing in a private practice setting. So it is something that can be easily done in India at so many different places. Thank you once more for giving me this opportunity.
It's a very interesting presentation that you went door to door. And in that context, I wanted to know, what is the reaction? Did they allow them always to enter the house?
So many times they refused. So, but then the 4 female healthcare workers, they were recruited from that community only. And multiple times they had to go. And there are still a very few, I mean less than say 0.05% who refused examination, but very well less.
Was it free at the vision center?
We used to charge 30 rupees as a this, and if a patient said they couldn't pay 30 rupees, it was done completely free. Or when the optometrist or the ophthalmologist went to people's home, again it was completely free.
Yeah, one of the aim was to set a vision center. So the vision center was set first and then the study was planned?
Both were done simultaneously, or the vision center was
became
functional about 15 days after the house-to-house screening started, because we had wanted to get it painted and get it equipped. And of course, Operation Eyesight Universal gave us all the technical assistance for this. Yeah.
And how much was the diabetic retinopathy prevalence in that area?
As a cause of blindness, it was less than 1%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a very interesting program. So we go on to the next presentation now. Dr. Jithani is ready? Yeah, please.
Sorry for the mishap. So as we were discussing that, now myopia has been recognized as a disease which does progress. So we all know that way back in 2010, Brand Holden came up with their article on extrapolation of how much myopia could be because of the progression and because of the increased prevalence. We now know that by 2050, there would be almost 52% children who would be myopic and 10% would be high myopes. So we all know that atropine has been used for myopia. We know that atropine 1% works wonders, but because of its side effects, potential adverse effects, it is not frequently used. And then came atropine ATOM trial 2, LAMP 1, LAMP 2. So basically all these trials set a key message that atropine eye drops do reduce the progression of myopia. However, there is no information of what happens when the patient is a non-responder. So who is a non-responder? A non-responder is a child who is compliant and yet the myopia is progressing at the rate of 0.5 diopter or more per year. In ATOM 2, there was a good 9.3% children. Over a period of 2 years, they had number of 9.3% children on 0.01 who were non-responders. In LAMP 2 also there were good number of children who were non-responders. So with this background, we tried to study the role of twice a day installation of low concentration atropine eye drops in these non-responders who are compliant and are using atropine, and yet they are progressing at a speed of more than 0.5 diopter per year. So all children who were above 5 years, between 5 to 12 years, who were not responding to low concentration atropine eye drops were included in the study. Children with ocular pathology, history of eye surgery, prematurity, parental history of high or pathological myopia, and astigmatism of more than 1.5 diopter were not included in the study. We got around 30 children from our pool of children who were not responding to low concentration atropine. We tried to, recruited them, assessed them for their near point of accommodation, pupil size, and at variable intervals. The primary endpoint of this study was to see myopia progression over a period of 2 years. The baseline was obviously taken after 14 days of starting the treatment. So the mean age that we saw was around 8.2 years. Follow-up was done every 6 months for 2 years, and the mean progression was found to be around 0.73 diopters in these non-responders before the children started using it twice a day. Out of these, 10 children responded well, and the progression went down to 0.36 diopter per year from 0.67 diopters, and the mean progression was 0.64 diopter for the rest of 20 children. So the progression did reduce in those children also, but it was not significant as per the definition of non-responders, which was 0.5 diopter per year. So we all know that, you know, atropine 1% is good, 0.01 is good, but there is no gross data as to what to do with non-responders. So LAMP2 did talk about 0.5%, 0.05%, but there was no data on what is to be done if there is only 0.01% available, which in our country at this point of time, the DGCI has given approval only to 0.01%. We don't have 0.05% at this point of time. So we conclude that twice a day usage of low concentration atropine may be effective in managing non-responders. So there's a good 33% of children who do respond to twice a day with absolutely no side effects. We did not find any gross side effect more than once a day usage. So it in itself opens up a new area of research where we can use these drops more frequently, whether we can use these drops as a primary treatment rather than going starting at once a day usage. We can start primarily when we are starting these drops to twice a day usage, because that would reduce the number of non-responders and won't waste another 2 years of those children. So thank you so much for the time.
I think very nicely done in time as well as well presented. Are there any questions? How many of you are using in the hospitals now the myopin drops regularly for children to prevent progression of myopia? Can you please raise your hands? Regularly across the, I know.
Progression.
Myopes are progressive, I agree. And what has been your this thing? Does it fall into the statistics that he has shown, or your thing is? Once a day. Any complaints of accommodation in these children?
Dr. Gogate, after how many years have you just followed up the patient? 1 year, 2 years?
I don't think I have more than 18 months.
So how is the progression?
The progression is lesser, but then I don't have a proper scientific data.
How do we use the word lesser? I mean, how are we to know what it will go up to?
People who are progressing, children who had say progressed -1, -2, -3 for the previous 2-3 years, now we put them on this for last 1 year, and there is either no change or a change of 0.25 or 0.5.
Dr. Jisani, can you just highlight a few of your examples of cohort, number of children have been treated, number, amount of patients?
Oh, I mean, we already presented that in 2018. Like, we were one of the first to start using 0.01% way back in 2012. So we first presented our data in 2018. Now I think we have around 800 children on low concentration atropine. We have our share of non-responders, and that is why responders, okay, because responders is the good story. So mostly, you know, as ophthalmologists, we don't want to hear the good stories, because that even the medical reps also come and tell us a lot of good stories. But it's a good intervention, and most of the children, almost 80 to 85% of the children do reduce. There is a good reduction of progression. The reduction of progression is almost like 60 to 70%. Like if as Dr. Gokte said, that if the progression is like 1 diopter, in another 6 months or so, the progression goes down by 0.6, like the progression would be only 0.3. So over a period of 8 to 10 years, over a period of 5 years, the difference becomes quite significant.
Well, I'll be interested in anisometropes. Is there any study to show if, say, one eye is -4, the other eye is -2, and you're using myopin, the regression would be?
So we have not really looked into the anisometropes, because we were mainly into, we have not looked into the data. although we do use it in anisometropes, not gross anisometropes, but we have not really looked into the data of anisometropes.
Thank you very much. We'll
Thank
now
you.
move on to the next presentation. This is by Dr. Priya Shivakumar. Is she here?
Yes, what is here?
Postpartum optic neuropathy pitfalls. I think she went out just now, no? So she's absent. Next is free paper 2161, mobile app based screening for anterior segment disease.
This is disqualified.
As it is disqualified. So there are no more papers. So now we can open the house to discussion if anybody wants to discuss any of the other papers.
Now, yeah.
Supposed to present?
Mobile app based screening.
Where's
This
it?
one.
Please go ahead.
Yes, you say, actually the presenting author is Dr. Bharadwaj. You are Bharadwaj? Yes. Yes, you can come over.
Somebody said you're not here.
You are not a ratified member. Presenting there,
Marks
presenting
bhi nahi hai na
author is
usko.
non-ratified member.
Are you a member of AIOS?
What's your number?
he may be non-ratified, no?
24975? Yeah, but the ratification has been done only up to 477.
Yeah.
But he can present, sir.
But it
Yeah,
will
no,
not be
no,
included
in the
in
column it is there that we
We
cannot
will not
mark,
give
but
the
he can
mark.
present.
You can
You can present.
He can present, but we will not mark.
Mark.
You marks.
So we'll
No
clap
problem.
after your presentation.
Yeah, we'll hear your presentation. Ratify nahi hoga.
But then why did they put it this way?
He may not be having a
He will not be in the
That's why
competition.
no marks. He can present. Please continue.
Good afternoon, everyone. My today's paper for presentation is mobile app-based screening for anterior segment diseases. So, as we all know, the present burden of blindness in the world is about 1.2 billion, and about 340 million of that is from India. So, almost 1/3 of it is from India. So, anterior segment diseases contribute the major part, that's up to 77% of blindness, and 80% of these are actually preventable if appropriate intervention is done. So as you can see, the distorted map of the world, which shows the distribution of the amount of visual impairment, which is kind of inversely proportional to the distribution of available ophthalmologists worldwide. So as we all know, the existing method of approaching the remote areas for screening of anterior segment diseases, mainly the cataract, is via the eye camp. But this kind of eye camp approach has its own limitations. It is as per the previous studies, it's only approachable only to 7 to less than 20% of the patients, and these kind of eye camps only happen at specific dates and specific time and in specific locations, which might not be easily approachable for most of the population, and it needs a trained specialist to be present at the camp, and it is expensive for the organization to run the camps. And as we all know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the last 2 years, most of the hospitals we are not able to conduct eye camps, and that has again increased the burden of blindness, especially with cataract, from more than 10 million cases in the last 2 years. Upon that, the extra cases of what we are having for the current year, plus the previous burden of 10 million, we are supposed to address. So we have a lot of barriers to address these kind of visual impairment burden what we have. So that needs a lot of eye care specialists. That's currently we have only 1 in 91,000 population, and the cost of screening is high. There is need for travel facilities, and there is lack of awareness in the society. So how do we address these things? So with the solution, excuse me, not able to go ahead. So with the current solution of developing a mobile app for screening for anterior segment diseases, it is an initiative by community health workers. So the kind of need of specialists has been reduced, and it is very cost effective. So the high cost for screening has been brought down. The need of travel has been decentralized because this happens at the patient's locality, and because of the community health workers and the people in the local area are involved, this also gives an opportunity for us to enhance the awareness regarding the blindness in our society. So we call it as AROMA, Arvind Rural outreach by mobile application. This has been developed in joint venture with the biomedical engineering team from Johns Hopkins. So it has mainly three components, that is imaging hardware that is attached to a smartphone with an app, Android based app called Intel Health app, and we have a website for which the data is entered and that is to be reviewed by the doctor for further management. So how it works is, a community health worker screens the patient in the community who is trained, and they measure the visual acuity, take the detailed history and captures the images via the smartphone, and the data goes to the website where the ophthalmologist in the hospital reviews the data, and for the necessary patient who needs further intervention is being communicated with the help of messages or via calls. And we can do it in the form of a camp where the patients who required in one locality will be all pooled by a sponsor, and he will send the patient for the necessary treatment to the base hospital. So we basically have an app which is user friendly, low bandwidth app, which is very easily operable and does not need a highly trained personnel to operate it. And they take the images. So we have developed a second generation image capturing device that takes the image of this good quality, and the clinician or an ophthalmologist in the base hospital reviews the data whatever is collected, and based on the need for referral, the images shows the message that has been sent for the patient. So we have seen those images with the first generation camera was so this is the examples of the images with the second generation camera that we have taken, and they are very reliable at about 95% their diagnostic accuracy. So with the current study, what we have done, we have choose for 591 patients with 182 eyes. The mean age of the patients were around 54 plus or minus 15 years. The mean best corrected visual acuity of cataract patient was 636, and about 396 eyes, about 396 patients have undergone cataract surgery. So this is the data about 658 immature cataract, 87 mature, 62 pterygiums, 206 refractive errors, and 20 corneal opacities were diagnosed based on the data collected from the images. So we have a visual acuity agreement of concordance of 95.9% when compared to the image and the visual acuity taken by the community health worker, 93.3% diagnostic concordance. So by conclusion, it is a novel, low-cost, smartphone-based imaging hardware that can reliably capture the eye images suitable for clinical use. Community health workers can be trained to reliably capture the data and the images and suitable for remote diagnosis and referral decisions. Smartphone image or data grading system has high concordance with in-person ophthalmologist examination, and this will significantly help in reducing the burden of preventable blindness in our country. Thank you, sir.
Good. So this is an Arvind study, is it? Which Arvind hospital is involved in this?
This is part of Pondicherry, Arvind Hospital, Pondicherry.
Pondicherry.